Yeah, hello, welcome to my talk about Britain, I think, is that what I'm meant to be talking about? Yeah, well, first of all, my name's Bob, I'm English, you might be able to tell, and and I'm supposed to be talking about British things that American people think British people do, and we either don't or we do, or whatever. So I've got a big list. It's a bit of a random order, and it's quite long, so you'll just kind of have to bear with me as it kind of lurches from one thing to another. So first top of the list is scones. I mean, you Americans probably call them scones, but yeah, we call them scones. It's kind of like a posh food to eat, kind of. Well, I don't know really. They're like a kind of small, cakey type thing that we tend to have with strawberry jam and cream. That's kind of the posh way of eating them. You can just eat them with butter on. That's what I tend to eat them with. And you can have cheese ones as well, which kind of, instead of having raisins or just plain, they have cheese in. I quite like those ones. Second one is crumpets. They're the kind of these little kind of round things with like lots of little holes in the top, kind of like the surface of the moon. And you toast them. You like put them on like a grill pan and put them in your oven, kind of like toast them, and you put butter on them and eat them. The Queen, Queen Elizabeth II. Well, there's not really much to say. We kind of have the Queen. She doesn't really do much ruling or anything, so she's not really, I suppose, that important. But you know, it's kind of like the history and such. So you know, it's quite cool to have a Queen. You know, not many other people really do anymore. Big Ben, kind of, you know, a big tall clock tower. Interesting fact, the tower is not actually called Big Ben, it's called Westminster Tower. It's actually the big bell that goes off on the hour, so if you like listen to the chimes of it, like the one that goes off to like mark the hour, so it like goes off 3 times at 3 o'clock or whatever, that's Big Ben, like the big bell. And yeah, that's on the Houses of Parliament, which are by the river, in London. I went past them earlier this year, on a history trip actually. Secondly, yellow teeth. It's not true that British people all have yellow teeth. There are quite a lot of British people with white teeth because, you know, we do clean our teeth and stuff. Although, yeah, I imagine there's probably less kind of dental surgery around than there is in America. We do have braces and stuff over here, so, you know, I wear braces at the moment. So our teeth are less kind of crooked than they were. A lot less, even though, you know, I've still got my bottom teeth, which is still messed up, as it were. But yeah, yellow teeth is a bit of a misconception. I haven't got that many yellow teeth around here. There are some. Tea. We don't drink a lot of tea. It's kind of like on par with popularity with coffee. Some people drink tea kind of all the time. Some people only drink coffee. Some people don't like either. Some people drink coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon, or tea in the morning, coffee in the afternoon, I don't know. Some people drink tea at meal times and coffee at other times, or coffee at meal times, I don't know. But yeah, we have like lots of different teas. Yorkshire tea is kind of like the particularly British tea. There's PG tips as well, so that's quite British. What's next? Castles. There are lots of castles dotted around the country from like the medieval times. Yeah, there's quite a lot of big cities have a castle if it hasn't been knocked down. Quite a lot of castles are in ruins because, like, during the medieval times they had fights and sort of smashed them down and such, and never bothered rebuilding them. But there are quite a lot of them.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, I got interrupted for a minute, so I kind of got interrupted in the middle of my spiel. What's next? I was on castle, wasn't I? Well, yeah, there's quite a lot of intact castles around. Yeah, so in quite a lot of cities, you know, where it was never, like, defeated or smashed open or whatever, there are kind of, like, intact castles. Obviously, there's no, like, floors and stuff, because those were made out of wood and they kind of rotted and weren't used that much unless they were owned by a really rich person. So there are some, like Balmoral and stuff, that are still kind of like castles, but they've been fitted out with modern stuff. So yeah, but yeah, you can go around quite a lot, and they're like tourist attractions and like historical sites or whatever. So you can go around them and you know, look inside and such. There's one in my hometown. It's kind of Carlisle Castle. It's on a big kind of hill, and I go around there occasionally. Obviously, being from there, I've been through it enough times. What's next? Knights. Knights are kind of like, well, there's two kind of knights actually. There's modern knights and ancient, well, not ancient, kind of medieval knights. Medieval knights used to wear, like, you know, armour and have swords and shields and jousting. There's a jousting where you ride at each other on a horse with a big, like, lance stick thing, and you kind of, like, have to knock the other person off. If you knock them off, you jump off your horse and kill them. or just kill them on yours, I don't know, whatever floats your boat. Then you kind of, those are the kind of medieval knights. They became knights by being brave and serving their queen or whatever, and like going through knight training. Now we have different kinds of knights. They're still called Sir something or other, so let me think of a good example. I can't think of anything anybody the Americans might know. Sir Alan Sugar, the kind of big businessman over here, or Sir Terry Wogan, who's a broadcaster, works for the BBC Radio over here. They're both Sir Terry and Sir Alan. So yeah, what they do is when they have like a service, they do services too. So for instance, Sir Alan will be services to business or whatever, I don't know what he got it for. So if you do particularly well and get lots of like nominations and stuff in your field, as it were, you can become a Sir, a Knight. So you get a KB after your name, Knight of the British Empire. And you can add Sir to the front of your name. You can, it's usually Sir. You don't add your surname. You don't have surname. Like if it was Sir Alan Sugar, you don't have Sir Sugar. It's just Sir Alan. Some people insist on having Sir for all their names. Sir Alan is definitely one where you put a Sir on the front of it. And Terry Wogan is an example of who doesn't. It's very rare to call him Sir Terry. And for those they have to go to the Buckingham Palace, and they'd be knighted by the Queen usually, although not always. Sometimes Prince Charles, he's like second in line to the throne. Who have we got next? Everyone says that British people use bugger as a kind of a word, kind of like, oh damn it, which we do actually. Quite a lot of people do use. I use it. Bugger. Messed that one up. But it's kind of not a very good word to use. It's not a nice word. It's kind of like god damn it, it's a bit harsh. Next up, bloody hell is a very British thing to say. I think it's been popularised in America. A lot of people know it because Ron Weasley from Harry Potter uses it. Rupert Grint tend to say bloody hell a lot, or piss off. But we do say bloody hell and piss off a lot. Piss off is pretty common. Dearie me. I laughed when I found this one. Dearie me. Don't say it very much. It's kind of more of a joke when I say it. Dearie me. That hasn't gone well, has it? Yeah, dearie me. I do enjoy using it. It makes me laugh saying it. But it's not that common. People don't tend to say it. It's mostly kind of the older generation who tend to say dearie me properly. Next up, mate. Actually, we do say a lot. Like you pick up the phone to somebody you know, and you go, "All right, mate," or you say, "Mate, don't do that." If you're trying to be like, trying to be kind of friendly with someone. You don't tend to use it for people who are like your close friends. You don't tend to say mate to them often. But you tend to say it to people who it's actually used quite a lot in arguments. For instance, like you say, "Mate, shut up." Even though you don't really like the person, you still call them mate. But then, of course, Americans get quite confused if you say that to them, because then they say, "I'm not your mate," which kind of, confuses everyone. Next up is I say. Oh, I say. It's kind of posh thing to say. Nobody really does that. At least nobody I know says I say very often. I say, old bean, don't do that. It's kind of a Sherlock Holmes kind of thing to say, isn't it? I say, he's a murderer. Love, saying love at the end of it. Just shut up. Let me think of a good one. You're right, love. It's kind of a womanly thing to say. It's more often that women say it than men, to be honest. It's kind of, and they mean like motherly, looking after you. You right, love? How's it going, love? Your parent, you can see your mother saying it. I'll come on to that later, actually. Where's next? Being super polite. I don't know why that's a British thing. Being super polite. So I imagine there's manners all around the world, but it's pretty common in this country to open doors for women and be very polite and let people who are older than you go through doors before you do, and holding doors open for long lengths of time to let other people through. For instance, if somebody's wheeling a trolley, we don't, you sit there and you hold the door open until they're past, then if anybody else wants to come to you, hold it for them as well. Can't think of any other real examples of being super polite. You apologise for walking into people and such, you accidentally bump into someone, you always have to say, "Oh, I'm very sorry." But yeah, it's just kind of a social thing around the UK. You do apologise a lot. The British Empire, it's not so that you Americans still think we have one. We don't. We have pretty much nothing now. We have Britain, which isn't even all of Ireland. The northern bit of Ireland, that kind of island off the side of us, Scotland, Wales, and England, and a few fairly random islands dotted around the place. A couple of islands at the top, the Channel Islands near France, and the Falkland Islands near Argentina are pretty much about the first way we've got anymore. We've got a couple of British dependencies, which tend to be small Caribbean islands, but they're not really very British, as it were. But yeah, we did used to have a really big empire. It was about a third of the world's land we used to kind of empire over. We had like Australia and Canada and America at one point, but we gave it back. We thought it'd be nice. But yeah, we owned quite a lot of the world back then. Next up, the Beatles. The Beatles. The Beatles were kind of a big pop group back in the 60s and 70s. They're still quite popular. Quite a lot of people, young people, quite like the Beatles because they're really enduringly popular. And I'm going to pretty much have to end here, but next up, Shakespeare.